G'day folks, Sapper here with another World of Warships video. Welcome to BLUF, or Bottom Line Up Front, a series where I review ships but give you the need to know first thing and the in-depth meat further on. Think of it as a ship review video but with a TLDR. Welcome to the beginning of a new line of reviews, US Navy battleships. South Carolina and Wyoming are fairly standard battleships and are your training wheels for New York. So that is where I'll begin. Here is my review of the Tier 5 US Navy battleship, New York. The bluff for New York is that she is a standard Dreadnought-style battleship with good guns. She is not the tankiest battleship at Tier 5, but compensates this with a longer duration damage control party and improved heal. New York's guns are her strength, performing at the top of Tier 5 tech tree ships in a range of areas. New York is a good ship to learn or refine battleship fundamentals with and can be scary in experienced hands. New York is the original Tier 5 tech tree dreadnought battleship, Japan's Congo being a battle cruiser but with some battleship traits. This means that New York is slow at 21 knots, but has impressive armour on her citadel, making it hard but not impossible to score citadel hits on. The flip side of this is that New York doesn't have the best armour in other areas and eats pens from all sorts of angles when under fire from battleships. Thankfully, most battleships that New York will verse do not have the best dispersion to abuse her 19mm plating, but when RNG is against her, New York will hurt. The other setback from all this is that any gun over 120mm will comfortably pen New York with HE, everywhere. Unfortunately, by Tier 5, that includes just about every ship in the game, as most destroyers have progressed to 120s or better. To somewhat mitigate her squishy outer armour, New York has the US improved damage control party with a 20-second action time and an improved heal, healing 0.66% health points per second instead of the normal 0.5%. New York has fairly typical AA for Tier 5, being ineffective at preventing aircraft carriers from making more than one pass. However, she does have a rather tight turning circle and top in class at tier rudder shift, so she can get some surprisingly good torpedo beats given the opportunity. The exception to this being the more recent German aircraft carriers that have improved torpedo speeds. Putting this together, New York is not a brawler and not great at fighting in close quarters outside niche circumstances, despite her improved consumables. New York is a good gun platform, plain and simple. Among Tier 5 techline battleships, New York has the best broadside alpha, sustained DPM, and penetration at 12 kilometers. She rounds this out with good shell flight times up to 18 kilometers, only being edged out by Koenig and Peter Veliky by fractions of a second. The way to play New York is to remember that despite your size and class, you are not tanky, and you do not belong up the front. You are a gun platform, and one that should be played at range. Due to speed, armour and guns, New York plays best at the limits of enemy cruiser range and when not focused. This means that her effective combat range is usually 13 to 16 kilometers from the nearest enemy cruiser or battleship. For basic level players, care should be taken not to be the target that will be focused and stay with the team for safety. By not being the focus, time can be taken to get your hit count up and some damage on the board. For more advanced players, some of the smaller, lower tier maps and New York's good gunnery allows New York to play a central anchor role from the middle, providing crossfire onto the flanks. This will often lead to focus fire from enemy aircraft carriers or the odd YOLO destroyer rush. In most circumstances, advanced players should be able to manage the attention, but beware of German aircraft carriers. Their fast torps and AP dive bombers can eat you alive if given the chance. In the larger maps, intermediate and advanced players can perform well with the usual combination of battleship positioning and engaging targets of opportunity. New York can perform well as middle or top tier, however when bottom tier, she is completely outclassed by tier 7s as cruiser range has increased and battleship quality has improved noticeably. When bottom tier, players will want to play at the limits of New York's range and rely on spotter plane to increase that reach. In this regard, New York suffers when compared to a battleship like Congo, who has the speed and range to up tier quite comfortably in comparison. Now to the build. For modules, pick up hull first as it upgrades both your shell types as well as giving you a chunky 6500 hit points. After that it's your choice, both range and engine upgrades are needed. My suggestion is if you are at a basic or intermediate level, get the engine first as you are probably struggling to hit things at longer ranges and every bit of speed counts. If you are experienced or don't find yourself making positioning errors, go range first because it'll assist you when you are up tiered. For consumables, New York doesn't offer any choices, with Damage Control Party, Heal, and Spotter being your only options. Damage Control Party and Heal are both US improved versions, as mentioned earlier. On to upgrades. Main Battery 1, and then Damcon 1. In the third slot, US battleships do not get access to aiming systems, but instead get artillery plotting mods in slot 3 and slot 6. For slot 3, this increases your range. This is unnecessary with 18km range and spotter plane, so take Main Battery mod 2, which improves your turret traverse. On to captain skills. First pick up Expert Loader. US battleships have fairly tanky turrets, particularly at higher tiers, so preventative maintenance isn't a must pick, but I wouldn't criticize anyone who took it, you do still lose turrets. Another interesting point is that many of the US legendary captains have a buffed Expert Loader skill, so you can benefit from that. Next, pick up Adrenaline Rush. Adrenaline Rush is always good as it gives you a DPM increase. Then basics of survivability and fire prevention to round out 10 points. Basically, New York dies from fires a lot, thanks to being slow and lightly armoured, so speccing for reduced fire effects is the first priority. After that, go Concealment Expert for 14, Superintendent for 17, and then Expert Marksman. While it's not a big deal if you choose to go a different order with the last three, particularly as you move up the US battleship line, concealment is very useful to allow you to not be focused and burnt to a crisp. Legendary captains William Halsey and the Doe brothers are ideal for US battleships thanks to buffed Expert Loader and Expert Marksman skills. If given a choice, Halsey is objectively a better pick thanks to the buffs he receives from Confederate and Double Strike achievements. The full bottom line is that New York is a great gun platform, but has been power crept in areas such as AA and Armour by the likes of Koenig, Iron Duke, and Peter Vlecki. Sadly, her improved damage control party and heal aren't quite enough to make up for the shortfall, and she is a gun platform, plain and simple. New York can perform very well if given the chance, but experienced players will miss the speed and armour of high-tier battleships, and basic and intermediate players will find themselves punished if out of position or bottom tier. Outclassed by tier 7 opponents, when bottom tier players in New York will need to use good fundamental skills to bridge the tier gap and come out on top. New York is reliable and a good ship for players of any skill level to improve on aim and positioning. She may be old and slow, but she still has a glint in her eye and a mean punch. New York has still got her swagger, just with a bit of a limp. So how does New York compare for noobs or skills? New York loses points compared to her peers in Armour and AA, and is equally bad to many with her slow speed. She makes up for this by being the best gun platform among her tech line counterparts, and by having the best rudder shift, one of the best turning circles, and improved damage control party and heal. Noobometer, 6 out of 10. New York can be a bit tanky thanks to improved damage control party and heal, but is otherwise a no-frills entry point to mid-tier US battleships, and a great ship for players to learn fundamental battleship techniques with. Inexperienced captains can struggle with her in her stock configuration and undervalue her, but given time they may be able to find her quality. Skillometer? 7 out of 10. New York has some of the best gun specs at tier 5, topping out numerous categories. Skilled players will be able to maximise these values to get impressive damage numbers. However, in the lower tier battleship space, carry potential is often defined by the speed you get somewhere rather than the best gun performance, and as such, New York is good but not great. My recommendation is to free XP her modules if you have it spare, but then enjoy playing her to get to New Mexico, brushing up on your positioning and aiming skills in the process. New York is underrated and underestimated, and it can be fun to correct those assessments. Thanks for watching, folks. I hope you found this BLUF useful and informative. Do you agree with my assessment or not? Do you think I missed something about New York that should have been covered? Let me know down in the comments. For this new BLUF series, I'm going up the US battleship line ending in Montana. So next stop is New Mexico. How does she fare in 2020, and is she the shotgun everyone thinks she is? You'll find out in the next episode of Bottom Line Up Front. Thanks again, take it easy, and I'll catch you in the next one.